Okay, I just muted myself. I muted myself on YouTube and I think it was recording everything. Okay, I believe I'm on YouTube and on, we'll check the One Great Work Network. I was a little delayed getting here today. What? Okay. So welcome everybody. I'm going to be pulling up YouTube in just a bit to make sure everything's working okay on YouTube where I'm live streaming. It does appear I'm on the One Great Work Network. Please check out the One Great Work Network because it's a fabulous place to connect with many great content creators that are sharing a message that more now than ever is being suppressed. So and it's not just politically related or health related. I kind of talk more so about the health topics, but also rising consciousness, mental, psychological levels of pain and issues that humanity is facing, and how we can break free of these chains of oppression created by whatever this existence is. The simulacrum, some have called it. Who knows, right? Let me pull up YouTube to see if anybody's here on YouTube. Now, why is it that I can't see the chat box? There should be a little... There it is. There is a chat box. So if anybody is here on YouTube, and it might have helped if I would have announced this on my Facebook page. It's been busy, folks. It's been very busy. I'll just do a quick reminder to everybody on Facebook that I am live. Let me know we're meshing with technology. Since I'm not sure how many people are here right now, I listened to a very interesting interview that Alex Jones did with David Icke. I think it was yesterday or the day before. But it was quite interesting. I'd replay it, but it's kind of like, why don't you just go watch it? Go to band.video, where Alex Jones posts all of his videos. And I believe if you go to the InfoWars website, you can watch all of his material. You can watch it all like during the live show. But anyway, what I found quite interesting about that discussion the two men were having, both of them, quite iconic in their ability to, with their history, I should say, of helping humanity understand what this world really is. And I really like David Icke quite a bit because he was explaining a little bit of, these demonic forces that are becoming more apparent, like an apparition. They're piercing through the... Let's double check I am. Okay. Oh, look, I have people here on YouTube. So Planty Full is here. Audra. Hello. You know what? I posted on Facebook that I was on YouTube. I need to spend some time with the technology and learn how to do multiple platforms at once. But last time it didn't help me do that. And I've been so busy this week. And I just haven't had a time to do that. So it says you can't hear me yet. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, this has been a really stressful, I don't know, year for me. My 17-and-a-half-year-old dog is behind me, and it takes me quite a bit these days because he can't really stand up and walk on his own. So I have to do a lot of work for him. And I was trying to get everybody fed before this live stream began. And sometimes, when you're helping a little old man, and, he's got a great appetite, but it takes him longer than normal to eat. And I kind of have to hold the plate and hold him, or hold his bowl and hold him. So it took me quite a while, and I was running super duper late. But anyway, I'm doing my best to get it all in. So, yeah, if you have questions on YouTube, feel free to post them, and I will, address any questions or concerns or anything you want to post there. But what I was talking about before I realized that I didn't have audio on YouTube was I was listening to an interview of Alex Jones and David Icke. And David Icke was talking about, and this was just, I think, from yesterday's show. So if you want to watch his show, I think it's entitled David Icke is Being Interviewed by Alex Jones. Both of these men, are quite into, and I don't like to call it conspiracy because I think there's more truth into what these men are saying as opposed to what we're getting from the mainstream news. That seems to be the real conspiracy. Plantyful says, thank you for coming on. That's really hard to take care of a senior dog. Yeah. He's a trooper, though. He's my little boy, and I'll always love him. So I can't get too emotional talking about how much I love him, but I do. And so, yes, I want to care for him as much as I can and respect him and help him out. But he's got a great appetite, so I'm so happy that I can be there to make sure he's well fed and all of that. I don't think you guys can see him. He's laying right behind me. He's sleeping. He's got a diaper on. But anyway, I was listening to David Icke talk about these demons that, I guess there was something in the news about this woman who was on a plane leaving, I don't know if she was leaving the Dallas airport, but apparently she was freaking out because she saw this man in a green hoodie that appeared to have maybe shapeshift into a reptilian. I don't know the whole story. I watched a little bit about it, but she was freaking out. And so Alex Jones brought that up to David Icke, and he started to explain that, there are levels that, and I've talked about these levels in our discussion or in my explanation of kind of how Rudolf Steiner describes the fourfold human being. So we have the physical level, which is kind of the material level, right? We share that with, rocks and with plants and with animals and with humans. And then past that, we have the etheric level, which we also share with plants and animals. That's the etheric level is not really part of that physical realm. And then beyond the etheric level, there's the astral level. And then the most, I guess, expanded level, which is unique to humans, is what Rudolf Steiner calls the ego level. But it's not really how we would define ego. It's more of the ontological or the I. So it is that higher level of, it's like our belief systems, right? Because we are kind of controlled by our belief systems. And all four of these levels need to be healed. And when I work as a detoxification specialist, as a naturopath, it seems like we're all bogged down in this physical realm. And Rudolf Steiner actually described this quite a bit in his writings, that we've shifted to what's called the Ahrimanic time period, where Ahriman, who is kind of the two sides of this devil, if you will, there's Lucifer and there's Ahriman. Both of them are needed for humans to experience their karmic lessons and to go through the what we had agreed to go through so we can ascend in consciousness. But Ahriman is different from Lucifer. Lucifer is more like, the woo-woo hippie kind of like, not very with it, but very, I don't know, you think of like the people talking in tongues, that's like Lucifer. Ahriman, think of Fauci, think of Bill Gates, think of these people. They're very materialistic. It's all about control. It's all about focusing on just the material. And I'm not just saying Bill Gates is Ahriman. I don't think that is the case. But I do think that he's part of the agenda that Ahriman is influencing right now. But anyway, um, those four bodies, physical to etheric to astral to ego or ontological. The astral level and the ontological level are also part of when we incarnate into our physical being. We pass from kind of this ontological state through the astral state. And it's kind of like the aperture. We pierce through the etheric level to enter into our physical body that we have chosen, after the parents have created this physical form in the mother's uterus, then we enter that, right? And so what's interesting is hearing David Icke talk about these demons, and he said that apparently we're at a state during our time where, there's the lower astral level where a lot of these demons exist. The higher astral level, closer to that ontological ego level, that could be where, the higher beings are. But we are deeper into the, we're more so in, closer, I guess, to these demons coming in from the lower astral planes. But anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent if this is not interesting to anybody, because I think I've lost a few viewers. Plantyful, if you're still here, I saw that you typed something, and I'm going to read it now. I'm trying to go all raw. It's hard to stay satiated, even with avocado. I get sick of it. I know I can eat more fruit, but do you have any recommendations? Maybe it's because I'm malnourished. Well, I mean, if you're malnourished, that's one thing to make note of. I think it seems like, when we're using the raw foods diet to heal, some people, they feel amazing eating raw foods at the get-go. And so, there's a place to be 100% raw. There's a place to heal. And sometimes you have to stick with that until, the healing is complete. But at some point, I do think, because again, we are in this very dense physical existence right now. At some point, it's good to go beyond 100% raw and introduce maybe some cooked foods, some steamed vegetables. Not to go crazy with cooked foods, definitely stay away from processed foods. That's just pure poison. Let me make sure my phone is not making noises. There's a lot of poisonous junk out there. And, historically, we have been raw, as most animals. And who knows, it's hard for me to say, evolutionarily what humans were like, because who knows if we can even trust evolutionary history. Because, with a lot of these alternative explanations of what humanity is, what our existence is, I don't know anymore. It's like, really, what is going on in this planet? What on earth is happening? Which is the name of Mark Pastia's website. Because it's really hard to think that, well, let me say this. One thing I could recommend is that you watch Cosmic Abandonment, because I think that humans, yes, we do have an ideal diet of fruit, but I think it's so energetically potent for humans that it's hard for us to stick with 100% fruit and do on this planet what we're meant to do. Dr. Morse talks about his time when he was for 6 months living, among all of these orange trees in Florida, and he just lived on oranges for 6 months. And energetically, he became so elevated that he was like having these out-of-body experiences. And if he would have stayed there, and I think, part of him would have liked to have stayed there, he would have not been able to teach the message or to share his message with the world. And that's the message of how powerful fruit is to heal. But there's a time for fruit, and then there's a time to come off the fruit. And so Plantyful also states or wrote, can you heal on steamed sweet potatoes and veg, just slower? Well, definitely when you stick with fruits and vegetables as a primary diet, even some of the cleaner grains, And even, some of the beans. I know Dr. Morris is not a fan of beans, but any of these plant foods in their natural state, unprocessed, nothing added to them, like no salt, no chemicals, no preserving agents. You want to get things in their natural state. And if you want to prepare them in a certain way, so let's say you get, some of the ancient grains, quinoa. You can prepare quinoa. I have an Instapot, and I, cook quinoa in that, and I mix in some vegetables if I want something a little bit heartier. I don't eat that way all the time. I do, I'll bake some sweet potatoes or steam sweet potatoes or even white potatoes. The sweet potatoes are obviously a little bit more nutrient dense, but it's good to have some variety. But, you're even in regular white potatoes, you're getting some minerals and some vitamins. There's vitamin C in white potatoes, right? But these are denser foods and they ground us. They're grounding foods. And when you think of like potatoes, they come from the ground. They're connecting us. They're earthing us. So if you're feeling like you're not connected to the earth as much, you feel maybe too luciferic, if we get into some Steiner-isms, it's good to have those grounding foods. Whereas the fruit is so energetic, it's going to raise your energy, and you're going to be more luciferic, less Ahrimanic. But people heal with fruits and vegetables, even vegetables that are steamed and baked. For sure they do. There is, and people, take it for what you will, but before I knew Dr. Morris, I came from the Dr. Furman camp, and I did an internship with Dr. Furman. And he's part of, this group of medical doctors that are putting forth, plant-based foods, whole plant-based diet to help people heal. And, Dr. McDougall is in this camp, Dr. Goldhammer, who runs the True North Clinic in California. That's a water fasting clinic, that's when I was working with Dr. Furman. I was learning from him water fasting because he too was using water fasting as a healing modality to help his patients reverse chronic disease. So, but now these medical doctors are using these plant foods not just in the raw form, but in cooked forms too, and people are doing good healing. I will say, Dr. Morse's protocol, because he tends to see people that are very, very severe. So people that, have severe neurological issues. The fruit is really beneficial for healing the nervous system. And because you're getting a lot of electrical components, these electrolytes, these mineral electrolytes in the fruit, when all of that nutrition is absorbed into your bodily fluids, it's nourishing the electrical transmission of the messaging from like your brain to your muscles or your sensory receptors to your brain. And that's another thing that Steiner gets into. I'm not going to go on and on about Steiner, but Steiner doesn't even think there are motor neurons. He thinks that all of the neurons in our body are sensory. They're all sensory neurons. But I won't go down that path. So Plentiful states, okay, Dr. Morris generally seems really strict and generally says 100% fruit. Yes, he does say 100% fruit when you're trying to reverse something, when you're trying to heal yourself. Okay, so if you have some kind of chronic issue, and let's say you tried the medical route, you don't want to be on pharmaceuticals, and you want to heal this using the laws of nature, then fruit is going to get you there the fastest. Fruit is really, it's quite powerful in that way. And many medical doctors poo-poo fruit. So like I had there's a medical doctor, Dr. Brooke Goldner, who I think is a lovely lady, and I think somebody was asking me about her last week, but she advocates green smoothies to help people heal from autoimmune disorders. And she has said many times that it's the greens that are healing you, not the fruit. She just adds some fruit to the green smoothie to make it palatable. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think, the greens are very beneficial, but I think there's, she's missing out on just how amazing the fruits are. So Plentiful says she has autoimmune and anxiety issues. So with... Oh, OBS disconnected. I don't know if something happened with my connection to the One Great Work Network. It's possible. Yeah, it looks like I'm frozen there. Oh well, hopefully it'll come back on. But it's good that you don't take pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals, it's kind of like they're there for like severe situations, right? The only kind of department of the allopathic system that I kind of trust, I trust good surgeons and I trust good emergency room physicians because they can, bring somebody back from the brink of death. So can certain holistic remedies, though. There have been like Carbo Veg is a homeopathic remedy that has been touted as being the corpse reviver because this homeopathic remedy, given like at a high potency, has brought people back from the brink of death. So that's one to have on hand. Carbo Veg 1M. But Plentiful, to get back to your issue, starch solution. I think it might be good if you just for people that want to lose weight. So there's like a lot of good testimonials, like Chef AJ. I think she lost a bunch of weight with the, basically it's the low fat. Sorry, OBS is kicking me out and it's making a lot of noises. So I don't know if I can turn off that notification. Let's see. Plentiful says Dr. Goldner's main issue is that she wants you to eat 1.5 pounds of cruciferous vegetables. That's too much for me. Honestly, grosses me out. Yeah, cruciferous vegetables, they can be a bit of a challenge to digest. I think, Dr. Morris, I don't think is a big fan of cruciferous vegetables. I think they have certain properties that are helpful and healing. But, I think people that are attracted to Dr. Goldner's protocol, I think if they, really stick with it, it can be helpful, right? So, but I think you can also work with the fruits and get to where you want to go as well. To get back to your original concern was that you're having a hard time feeling satiated. And with the avocado, avocado's kind of dense, and I wouldn't recommend mixing avocado with fruit. So we still want to follow basic food combining laws. Avocado is okay with like greens. So I usually use avocado as part of like a natural salad dressing. I'll just take a big bowl of greens and massage the avocado with some lime juice. So that's an option. That's how I use avocado, really. But I would not mix avocado with any fruit because I think that's a bad combination. And these foods, I know, like you kind of get sick of eating the same food over and over again. That's why the vegetable world can be kind of boring. You gotta mix it up a little bit. That's why the fruit world is a little bit more exciting because with fruits, there's such a diverse array of fruits out there, and they're so sweet, and they're just, I don't know. Some people are very easily satiated with fruit. So are you drinking them as like smoothies? So maybe try some fruit smoothies. Try to find a big array of fruit. But if you do need to feel more satiated, and if you have an autoimmune disease, you might want to stay raw at that point. But do some fruit meals, do some salads, green salads, do a green smoothie. I don't have any problems with green smoothies like Dr. Goldner's protocol. I didn't know she was recommending 1.5 pounds of cruciferous vegetables. But you can make like a kale salad. That's an option. You could, you might be more familiar with her protocol than I am. Rohan is here. I had a question about mucus and its relationship to the lymphatic system. I've been raw for 2 months now and draining a lot of mucus, but have not been filtering very much. Well, it's great that you are draining a lot of mucus, because mucus is something that is triggered to be released from our mucosal lining, which lines our digestive tract, our respiratory tract. And anytime there are irritants that come into those pathways, they trigger a mucus response. But sometimes what happens is, because our bodies are suppressed, our tissues are congested, we get the mucus response and it just gets stuck. It gets stuck in these linings. So you get like the mucoid plaque lining the digestive tract. You get a bunch of mucus in the sinuses and in the respiratory pathways. Even in the urogenitary, the urinary system and the genitals, because those are too lined with mucous membranes, you can get mucus accumulation. So when you detoxify and you lighten up your diet, and you are taking in foods now that are easy to absorb, easy to assimilate, and a lot of these fruits, especially like the water-rich citrus fruits, they're quite astringent and they can kind of help to break up this mucus. Now all the mucus starts coming out. So that's kind of like the phase 1, and that's a great thing to see, because you want to see that response. With time, though, as you kind of pierce deeper into your bodily fluids, and now you're distributing these nutrients throughout the body, eventually you're going to get to the point where the kidneys are going to start to kind of clear out their ducts, because the kidneys too are lined with, they're made up of a bunch of little tubes that have epithelial cells that can detoxify and start filtering the lymph a little bit more easily. You might want to experiment, Rohan, with, to answer your question about the mucus drainage and the kidney filtration, they can occur simultaneously. I've had people release a lot of mucus and filter, so it's not always one thing comes before the next. But, I think as you progress, you will get to the point where you'll start seeing the filtration of the kidneys. And, experiment a little bit with the dry fasting, or you can experiment with eating maybe some dates. There have been, I think if you were at Dr. Morse's Q&A with myself on Wednesday, he talked about, and there was a questioner that asked about this too, or experienced this, but people eating some dates, and dates helping them filter for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because it's so dry, and maybe that's also why dry fasting works. It seems like the lymphatic vessels that are passing through the kidneys need to be kind of squeezed, and they need help pushing that lymph into the pathways that lead to the it being part of the urine. It doesn't have the pressure that we have in the blood. So in the blood vessels, there are small little capillary beds in the kidneys called glomeruli. Glomerulus is the singular name of this capillary bed. And this glomerulus is under a very high pressure. And, there's reasons for that. The tube coming into the glomerulus, called the afferent arteriole, is a wider diameter vessel. The tube, or the blood vessel exiting it, the efferent arteriole, is more narrow, and that builds up the pressure in the glomerulus, pushing a lot of stuff out. So it's very easy for us to remove excess fluid, excess electrolytes from our blood. The kidneys do help maintain homeostasis in the blood. So that means helping to maintain blood pressure, normal blood sodium levels, normal blood calcium levels. All of these electrolytes that are flowing in our blood plasma, all of that is homeostatically regulated. Hormones are involved, and the kidneys help with that. But the way that the kidneys help us remove the waste products, the congestion that is trapped in our tissue spaces, that's where those lymphatic vessels are coming in to the kidney parenchyma, the kidney tissue. And it's kind of like they're there. They're like, hey, we've got some waste products that we would like you to, allow us to pass into the urine. And it seems like because our lymphatic system gets so congested, it's hard to squeeze that out. So there have been a couple of therapeutic ways that I've noticed to be helpful. But again, it's kind of like any of these methods that I know of, you have to be careful with, and that includes things like dry fasting and eating dried fruits like dates. It's not always good to do these things long term. Like, I would never recommend, going dry fasting more than a day, more than 20 hours even. I'm not a big fan of prolonged dry fasting. I think water is very important for the human body. And I think the best water comes from fruit, right? Because that's structured water pulled in from the root systems of the plant. So dry fasting can be kind of, dangerous, and you want to be very cautious. So it's not a modality that I recommend. Definitely not at the beginning. But there have been scenarios where clients have, in telling me what they're dealing with, we tried dry fasting, and that's what helped them to filter and helped them to maybe reduce swelling or reduce some sort of symptom that they were experiencing. Plantiful says, let's see. I've been doing a combo, Dr. Morse and Dr. Goldner. If my diet isn't perfect, should I still take herbs? I've been holding off. Well, with the herbs, if you're going to invest in herbs, make sure you're doing the diet. That's my recommendation, because the herbs will work even if you're on a poor diet, but they work much better when you're on a very clean diet. And I think doing a mixture of Dr. Morse and Dr. Goldner is great, because, Dr. Goldner, from what I've heard, has had a lot of success, including her own success in reversing autoimmune diseases. If I'm not mistaken, I think she had systemic lupus erythematosus, diagnosed when she was like a young girl or maybe a teenager. And that's quite, traumatic for a young person to have. But, by changing her diet, by eating a bunch of green vegetables, and apparently she doesn't even like fruit. How? I don't know, because fruit is just so tasty. I think there's a reason why we have taste buds on our tongue that are sensitive to sweets. But yeah, I'm a fan of green smoothies. I had a green smoothie today. In fact, many days I drink green smoothies just because I don't have time to eat big green salads like I used to. I used to make a big green salad every single day, but it would take me so long to eat it. And so I found that if I want to get the greens in, which are excellent sources of minerals, and the green color is very balancing. It's the color of the heart chakra. It's I think greens are great. So I do try to get in a pound of greens every day. I don't go a pound and a half. And I do some cruciferous greens. I do kale and what else do I do? Why can't I think of the name? Cabbage, kale and cabbage. I do those cruciferous vegetables quite a bit. And I do broccoli. I had some steamed broccoli today with some potatoes for my dinner. So I mix it up. And I don't do 100% raw, although I do stretches of 100% raw. I was thinking of doing, a juice cleanse coming up here pretty soon, because I'm launching relatively soon an online program which will be 12 weeks in length, where people can join, and you have exclusive access to me in a private group setting, and we'll have meetings like this weekly. So this is my public version of what I would do, but really it's going to be a more private group of people. And so part of that group is going to be more so for people that truly just want to heal, and they're trying to reverse some sort of chronic illness. And I think Dr. Goldner has something similar. I don't think I'm going to charge what she charges, but I've heard that her group program is, I don't know, pretty expensive. But she deserves it, right? Because this is her life and this is her livelihood. So I don't like to discredit what people charge or anything, but I do kind of see where people are coming from, because everything's so expensive these days. Let's see. Plantiful says, can you mess yourself up taking the wrong herbs, like if you don't have thyroid issues and take the thyroid? Let's see. I have thyroid issue symptoms, but all of the doctor testing came out inconclusive. Well, first and foremost, the herbs, if you're talking about like Dr. Morse's herbal formulas, he has herbs in multiple formulas, right? So he puts together a group of herbs that help strengthen or help to detoxify certain organs or tissues. And I don't think you can go wrong. And there's a lot of crossover with various herbal formulas. Like for instance, his liver skin formula is somewhat similar to the pancreas formula. So if I'm, doing an iris analysis and I see somebody has both pancreatic symptoms, liver symptoms, and I can see that on the iris, and by talking to them or seeing their health questionnaire, they also have symptoms of those organs being weak or congested, I will rotate those two formulas. So, like with thyroid issues, which are quite common, depending on, your set of symptoms and other things that are going on with you, I might exchange or rotate, the thyroid formula with the pituitary formula and maybe the endocrine glands formula or even the gland tonic. So I like to rotate the herbal formulas in a specific group where the sets of herbs within that formula are somewhat similar, because first, I don't like anybody getting used to one herbal formula, because then your body relies upon it and then it becomes less potent. So I think it's more beneficial to rotate them. And it's also good to take a break from the herbs. Dr. Morse even recommends taking 1 or 2 days, if you're going long term, off of the herbs each week. Because again, it's good to mix things up, to not let the body expect these herbs coming in and playing a role in helping your body heal. So, see, I only have Dr. Morse formulas. I have most of them. Yeah, so I think if you have a lot of the herbs already and you're going to be really strict with your diet, you said your diet isn't perfect. So, that's one thing, like in my 12-week program that I'm coming up with. One of the things I want to tackle with the people that join is, why aren't you strict with the diet? And, motivating the people working with me to get strict and to work with the nuances of what's holding them back. If you're feeling, that you have low energy on the fruit, or you're feeling malnourished, or you feel like something's missing, what can we do to fix that? So it's usually something that you can change. And, I know with sticking with a raw diet is challenging for many people. It's hard to, have a family and go to work, and, all of these crap foods are all over the place. It's so easy. I mean, the nice thing, I guess, during the pandemic was that it was really easy for me to stick with the health-promoting diet because I wasn't, for the year that I was teaching online at my regular college, I didn't even go to the grocery store because I wasn't going to wear a mask. So I had my food delivered, and they just brought me the fruits and vegetables I wanted. And then, when you're at work, people are always bringing junk food. Not that I would ever eat that nonsense, but, there are times when I would bring a smoothie to work and then I'd be out of it and then I'm hungry and then I'm like tempted with eating, some non-organic fruit that's sitting out on a table. I mean, that's my dilemma, because I would never eat poison food, the processed poisonous junk food that is all around wreaking havoc on our bodies. Anyway, Plantiful says, I had my eyes read by a Dr. Morse student. She recommends so many herbs and glandulars. She didn't offer any support, so I felt like it was willy-nilly. I want to work with someone that supports me. I'm always vegan, just not always raw, and I've got a pretty healthy diet in general. And that's great, Plantiful. I think, most of the people that follow Dr. Morse have a pretty good diet. So that's awesome. And yeah, vegan is more so kind of the ethical reason, I think, for eating fruits and vegetables. And then, plant-based is the health promoting. That's kind of how I balance those two ways of describing dietary choices. But yeah, with raw, it's just one of those things. I think there is a place for cooked foods, but again, if you're trying to heal an autoimmune disorder, I mean, depending on the severity of it, you know, I know like from the couple of videos, I've maybe watched maybe 10 or so of Dr. Goldner's videos. I do like to watch a lot of the plant-based doctors because as someone who works with clients, I like to know what these other people are doing because a lot of times people that have worked with them come to see me. But also I like to, you know, gain understanding of what they're doing and how it has helped the people that have worked with them. Because the more I know, I think the better. The better off my clients will be. I want to see if I can change something. Okay, I'm back. Let's see. Rohan is here. Rowan, I'm sorry, not Rohan. Rowan, I think you had called me, or we talked on the phone not too long ago. So, Rowan. Patty, I know you've talked about this before, but can you talk about it again? Why do I only see filtration after cheat foods or cooked foods? Is that new lymph? You know, I've noticed a lot of people, like, they'll be 100% fruit, they don't see any kidney filtration, and then they eat some junk food, and then next thing you know, they're filtering. So, my understanding of that is that, you know, when you're doing a lot of fruit, first, the fruit, you're bombarding your body with this structured water and all of the vitamins and minerals. So, all of this amazing nutrition is flooding your blood plasma, and all of a sudden, all of this new water comes into your blood, and because it's structured water pulled up from the root system of the plants, it flows much more easily. You know, it has kind of this kind of spin to it. It's really a laminar flow. And when it reaches the kidneys, and the kidneys are helping to, again, maintain homeostasis, including blood pressure, if there's too much of this amazing water in the blood plasma, it's going to filter some of it out. It's going to remove some of it. And that's going to cause you to create more of a dilute urine, and you're not going to see much filtration. I mean, you're always filtering, first and foremost. You're always filtering. It's just whether or not we see it. And the filtration we see is the stuff more so coming from the lymph, which textbooks don't talk about because they don't show that connection between the lymphatic system and the kidneys. Now, when you eat the junk food, if it's like, you know, dry foods like cookies and candies, those are dry, dead, dehydrated foods. They're not bringing any hydration in with it. And so that's going to be less water in the blood and less water to remove, so the urine's going to be more concentrated, a darker color. That's going to affect the color of the urine. But you might see the filtration because when you eat that junk food, you know, some of it might get trapped in tissue spaces and then later purged out, and then that's coming from the lymph side of things, causing some of the filtration. So, you know, that's kind of a little bit of what I think could be going on. I mean, none of this is conclusive because, you know, I've talked about how it's hard to assess lymphatic flow in a living system because lymphatic vessels are just really small. They're very thin. They collapse very easily. It's hard to push things through them and to actually study them. So I don't know. Let's see. Mark is here. Mark Cooper. I tend to eat the same thing over and over again because I like routine. What do you think of a diet of bananas, onions, and lentils? Interesting diet. Well, I mean, Mark, it kind of depends what your goal is. You know, you can survive on bananas, onions, and lentils, and it's definitely healthier than a lot of diets out there, and it's, you know, not hurting anybody. No animals are dying as a part of you ingesting bananas, onions, and lentils. Onions, Dr. Furman is a fan of onions, and I know onions in their raw state are more beneficial. They have like some kind of chemical, I have to remember what the name of it, anthocyanin, I don't know, don't quote me on that. But there's like a potent chemical in onions that have certain benefits according to Dr. Furman. I don't think Dr. Morse, because he tends to align with the natural hygiene side of things. He's not a big fan of onions nor garlic. Although Dr. Christopher has touted garlic as being nature's antibiotic. And I've actually told people that have had bacterial infections to add some raw garlic to their juices or their smoothies. And yes, it tastes disgusting, but it can knock out a pretty serious infection if you're having one, if it's, pathogenic indeed. But the lentils are a little bit, that's again a plant food. It's, lentils and most beans. Lentils, I guess, are seeds, if I'm not mistaken. But, it's like a little bit of carb, a little bit of protein, a little bit more dense. I mean, again, if you're not trying to heal anything, it's going to probably fill you up. You're going to feel satiated. So I don't have a big problem with lentils as a whole. I do think, though, looking at your diet, bananas, onions, and lentils, I would definitely try to add a little bit more variety coming from the greens and the fruits, because these two food groups are the most nutrient dense. So greens have a plethora of phytonutrients and minerals. They're the mineral-rich foods. And then the fruits, very vitamin-rich, many phytochemicals that are healing, very numerous properties, and the simple sugars that, just make life enjoyable. And you're getting more fructose in the fruit family. So, try that. Rowan writes, to filter older lymph, do we need to be all raw so that there's no new filtration and only moving older lymph? Sorry, something got caught in my throat. And it's not cat hair. So, that's been good. As far as to filter the older lymph, I would say, being all raw and disciplined and finding a set routine may be of some help here. I think that, so one of the things I'm going to be recommending in my online group is kind of a practice, if you will, of daily activities. And one of the ways of healing, when you want to remove the toxins, the congestion that should not be in your tissue spaces, it's good to have a practice that you are dedicating your life to every single day. So like waking up in the morning and having like a detox tea, or doing oil pulling or something, as a ritual every single day. Some people like to, do other practices in the morning as a morning ritual. And then, you progress slowly to introducing food into your day. Some people like to eat early. Some people wait till like 10. Some people like to continue their fast until maybe noon. Whatever works for you. But, abstaining from food for a period of time, I would say at the least for 12 hours, you should not be eating anything. If you're trying to heal, you can go up to like maybe 16 to 18 hours and have like a shorter eating window, but getting your nutrition in a short window of time. But when you do take in the nourishment, adding intention when you're preparing that juice or smoothie or fruit plate, whatever it is that you're eating. But these kind of practices, when you take in the food and you add intention to it, and you ask it to help with what you're trying to heal. So if you have congestion, let's say in your lungs feel very heavy, dense, like you hear the rattling when you cough, there's mucus there. You need it to come out. Well, the easiest route for the mucus in the lungs is to come out through, you coughing it up. But there's also mucus inside of the cells or in between the cells. That mucus most easily comes out in the lymphatic system, and then the lymph carries it to the kidneys, and we have to squeeze and push, kind of like if you think of it as like a tube of toothpaste, and you're at that little bit of toothpaste left, and you're kind of squeezing it to get that little push out. That's the lymph. And when it's really congested, which happens, so many people are so congested in their lymphatic system. It becomes so thick and agglomerated, and it doesn't flow to the kidneys as easily. We have to help it out. And again, when we're switching to a raw fruit diet initially, first, all of those fluids are hydrating the blood, because the blood is what delivers the nutrition to all of our cells, but the blood is also the transport highway for all of the chemical messengers coming from our endocrine glands. So all of the hormones use the blood to get to where they're going. But for the lymphatic system, it doesn't really have something to push it as much, and it takes squeezing, it takes movement. So again, that ritualistic practice, I would definitely recommend doing some deep breathing exercises, because breathing helps to move the lymph, believe it or not. So when you inhale and your rib cage expands and the volume in your thorax is getting bigger, well, one of the laws of chemistry is that as volume increases, pressure decreases. And the pressure in your thorax becomes lower than the pressure in your abdomen. And that actually helps to draw lymph up your legs into your abdomen. So you're pulling things up, you're creating this flow upward, and that gets, to your kidneys eventually. So breathe into your lower lungs, because that's closer to your kidneys, and that's really helping to create that differential pressure that will help draw the lymph up towards the kidneys. But it also helps with the venous blood also coming back to the heart, so it helps in both respects. But those types of practices will help with kidney filtration, believe it or not. And then, doing movements and stretches, very helpful, because our muscles, as they contract, they squeeze on the lymphatic vessels passing through them, and that pushes the lymph. And it also pushes the venous blood up towards the heart. So that can help out as well. I don't really, when you're detoxing, recommend, oh my goodness, my time is up, but I don't recommend rigorous exercise during detoxification, but I do recommend moving the body. So yoga, stretching, walking are all great. Plantiful says, when you're on the raw, how long should it take for your kidneys to filter well? I think that varies for everybody. It's hard to say for any specific person. And then, is mixing greens and fruits for a green smoothie in the morning okay? Or should the greens be eaten later in the day? Well, I know that some people, like Dr. Morris, is a big fan of eating fruit first thing in the morning. Maybe the easy to digest fruits like the melons. But, there's no strict rule. I have green smoothies a lot of times in the morning. I think it depends on you and your schedule. When I'm teaching during the school year, I would make a big green smoothie, 64 ounces, and I would put it in two 32-ounce containers and add it to a cold cooler that I would bring to work with me. And I would sip on those two throughout the day, and then I would come home and have a big salad or something like that. And it just nourished me. I don't have a lot of time to prepare meals or to sit there and eat, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of my schedule. I wish it wasn't so, always doing something, and I wish I had more time in the morning, but I do have to care for my fur babies, so I don't always have that. Let's see. So yeah, Plantiful, if you wanted to drink a green smoothie in the morning, I'm okay with that. I do it. And Mark writes, I think long walks might also be one of the best thing for our lymphatic system. Yes, walking is great. You're moving the body, and really, move your arms when you walk. Some people are very rigid when they're walking. The more you're moving, swinging your arms, and getting into a rhythm and a flow, and you're feeling everything moving. One of the worst things to do is sitting, like I'm doing right now. So sitting is not so great. Plantiful says, what are the best modalities to add to raw diet to help them heal? Well, like I said, I think that Mark also writes, and neck exercises each morning with mental clarity. But I think, there's a lot of good modalities. So, like, one of the things in the online program that I'm going to recommend is, like, dry skin brushing is very beneficial. I keep a dry skin brush right outside my shower. And so before I shower, right before I get into the shower, I just, up the arms. You're going towards the core. So up the legs, up the arms. That's guiding those small lymphatic vessels just under the skin. We want to guide it all towards the kidneys. And then when you do that dry skin brushing, then you get into the shower, you will then wash all of the dead skin cells off your body. And then when you're in the shower, you can practice the hot-cold therapy if you're brave enough to do that in the shower. I find it a bit easier to do in the summertime, like right now, because cold water isn't as shocking to my system as it will be in the wintertime. But, what you do is you aim this shower water right towards the back of your head, the lower part of your head, right where it meets the top of your neck. And you go like maybe 3 to 5 minutes with cold water, and then switch it to as hot as you can get it without burning yourself. Then 3 to 5 minutes of hot water. And you go back and forth, always end with the cold water. Do that like maybe 3 to 5 times. That is great for draining the head, because that changing of temperature when it hits the bottom of the head, the back of the head, that helps to kind of dilate and constrict the vessels draining lymph from the head. And that will be beneficial for draining like the sinuses, any congestion, like things that would lead to balding, poor scalp health. All of that will be assisted by the hot-cold therapy. I will have to get off pretty soon because, like I said, I have a 17-and-a-half-year-old dog, and he's giving me indication that his diaper needs to be changed. I'm going to have to help him out. But I'll answer the last couple of questions here. Can high-intensity exercise cause too much acid? Yeah, I think when you're trying to detoxify like a serious illness, I would not do anything that you're going to be building up a lot of lactic acid in your bodily fluids. Lactic acid is the most common metabolic byproduct of high-intense exercise. So that's where you're doing a lot of glycolysis fermentation, anaerobic fermentation. Because when you're high-intensity exercise, your muscles bulge up so much that they actually prevent blood flow getting to the muscles. And so you have to produce ATP without oxygen, and the end product of that is lactic acid. And that can be quite dangerous if you're already too acidic. So I would do exercises that aren't high intensity, but like walking at a nice pace. Yoga is beneficial, but nothing too intense. Not when you're trying to heal. If you're, just trying to lose weight, then do the high intensity exercise. That's fine. Ice plunging, I've heard of that with Wim Hof. I've never done it. I don't know. I used to do that when I was a little kid, believe it or not. I remember my mom doesn't remember this, but I remember doing it like when I was 3 years old. I would take the tub and turn it as cold as it could get. And I would fill it up with ice cold water, and I would sit in it. I have no idea why I did this when I was 3. But also when I was 3, I had an imaginary friend, and I lived in this whole different realm. So who knows? Maybe I came from a Wim Hof time era where I knew that therapy to be beneficial. And then, as always, we lose that connection to source as we get older. And our mind becomes mentally congested with the thoughts of the programmers. Anywho. Well, thank you, Plantiful and Raw Generative. Thank you for being here. And Knowledge Care Action got here last minute, but I will be here every Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. I forgot to post it in Facebook today. I apologize, but I will be here every single Friday at 6 p.m., so please join me. I'm going to be in YouTube for sure. And if I can figure out how to post on multiple platforms, because I have an Instagram channel and a Facebook channel, And I might add a few more. I don't know. I have an Odyssey channel too that I could probably go live streaming through. But anyway, every Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be here. So if you can put it in your calendar, you know, put it in your phone, I would love for you all to join with me, and we can just talk about health. So thank you all for being here. I need to go help my children out, my fur children, and I will see you next Friday. Bye.